Welcome to Insight, a program designed to promote discussions on matters related to national development. On today's program, we have with us the Honorable Khemraj Ramjattan, Minister of Public Security. Welcome to Insight, Minister.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure and an honor being here to discuss issues with you.
Minister, one of the questions on the minds of all of us, there's certain matters that need to go to cabinet and matters that people are concerned about. So the question is, are there going to be any cabinet meetings?
Cabinet meetings will continue, and it will be continuing until the next elections occur in Guyana. And there has been tremendous confusion, all created by the opposition, as regards the meaning of the CCJ's ruling on this issue. I think the Attorney General has made every attempt to clarify it, but still it seems not to have been in the minds of especially the opposition supporters and so on, that this is what is to be done. I would like to just quote to you from the consequential orders of the Caribbean Court of Justice, and it indeed said that Article 106(6), that the cabinet, including the president, shall resign if the government is defeated in a no confidence motion. But then 106(7) goes on to say, notwithstanding its defeat, a government shall remain in office and shall hold elections within 3 months or such longer period as the National Assembly by a 2/3 majority shall vote on, and so on. That is what is in our Constitution. The judiciary, and meaning the Caribbean Court of Justice, did indicate in the next paragraph that this is supposed to be a very clear in relation to what is the meaning of that article 106(6) and 106(7). But then it goes on, I think in paragraph 25 or 26, I didn't have it noted down here, of that consequential order, that it is important, however, that the court makes this point on that same issue. In mandating that the government shall remain in office notwithstanding its defeat and the resignation of the president and the cabinet, Article 106 envisages that the tenure in office of the cabinet, including the president, after the government's defeat, is on a different footing from that which existed prior to the vote of no confidence. Now, what that means clearly is that, yes, the president is intact, cabinet is intact, but they are all on a different footing. That footing, as it went on to explain later on, is on an interim or a caretaker status. That is what it is. So during caretaker status, they then went on, if I may tell you, Chancellor Cummings, Mr. Saunders is talking about, went on to quote some constitutional expert from Canada. When we refer back to the Canadian text and the author himself, it is clear that when, even if you're an interim or in a caretaker status, cabinet still is held. The Prime Minister is still the Prime Minister of Canada, and so on, as head of state and head of government. And so to the extent then that all this silly confusion being put forward there by, especially, I understand, Gail Teixeira now trying to be a legal expert in these matters to tell us what it means and all of that. The CCJ has indicated what it means in paragraph 26 here. That is, that indeed cabinet and the president continues in office until the results of the next elections, but in a different status, as they say, or a different footing, being in caretaker status, or the status that it is called, the caretaker status that they mentioned. And that is what is clear. We still have to run the country. It is not Bara Jagdeo and Irfan Ali will run the country. Who then runs the country if they're saying that we have to resign? And if Ramjattan is to resign, well, I could formally tender my resignation to the president. Who does President Granger tender his resignation to? And that is why I have always said that the article be written in the terms that it was, that is, you shall resign, but notwithstanding your resignation, you shall resign until such time as the next president is sworn in. There is an irreconcilable contradiction in it. And that is what has led to what I regard, and my legal opinion, as a legal fiction, that you do not have to formally resign. It simply means that, as Article 106.7 says, you shall resign upon the new swearing in of that new president. And that is when you shall. So the president is intact, cabinet is intact, and the CCJ made it quite clear. But the intactness is under a new footing, under a new status, and that is an interim or a caretaker status. And so cabinet can hold its meeting. If there is an emergency, if another sea defense is broken down and people are being flooded out, cabinet has to make decisions in relation to matters of spending of monies. Now, if cabinet now is non-existent, as these, I don't want to cuss them up here, but these people in the opposition are talking, what happens? And remember, there is a doctrine in law that states that government must never be in a vacuum. You cannot have a void in governance. And what it means then is that the president and the executive branch, which is the cabinet, must be in existence. Government in all its spheres, meaning the judiciary and generally parliament and the executive, is what comprise the government. We are the executive branch of the government, and we shall remain in office doing the cabinet meetings as we have. And they could say what they want, because we have this paragraph that makes it quite clear that the presidency and cabinet shall continue, but in the interim and caretaker status, as Justice Saunders mentioned. It's very, very clear.
So what happens in the case when you call the meetings and the opposition boycotts the meetings? What happens to those decisions that have to be made?
The decisions that have to be made, we're in Parliament, if
Yes.
they boycott the Parliament?
Yes.
If they boycott Parliament, well, fine. If there's a certain entrenched majority that we have to have, like a 2/3, well, then we will not have it. And so that is the end of that matter. But if there is a majority decision to be made in Parliament that requires only a 33, we certainly can provide that, because we do have that at present moment. After the Charandas issue, another parliamentarian was elected there and appointed to his position. So we do have the 33, and so we can make legislation that needs a majority support in Parliament and all of that. Parliament has, quite frankly, not been dissolved either, or prorogued like the PPP did. Parliament's life is still continuing, and to that extent then, once, of course, it is a majority that we require, we can have legislation passed. But again, we have to live in accordance with the decision of the caretaker interim status. So very restrained we must be in relation to matters legislative. So you just can't go to the legislature, because you are in that new footing, that new status. And that is why I hardly feel that we are going to go back to Parliament unless the President gets from the Leader of the Opposition that he's going to support the 2/3 majority for the extension. I think that is one reason that might very well carry us there.
Minister, all the ministers of government are interested in persons being registered. I'll give you this opportunity to tell our listeners how important it is for them to be registered.
The registration of all Guyanese is a mandatory thing, and it is also a desirable thing on the part of the government and also on the part of individuals. It has its benefits. When you're registered, you can become a voter. If you're not registered, you cannot vote, and that will mean that you're disenfranchising yourself. We are doing the house-to-house registration, and we do want it to continue. And I speak here as leader of the AFC and also a senior member in the government with APNU AFC, that indeed everybody should vote, because you get your voting rights as a result of being registered. You'll get your ID card. It will be a new ID card, to the extent that so many things can be done with an ID card. You are known to be a Guyanese citizen by virtue of that, and so many other benefits, benefits of commercial transactions. The fact that your identity can be proven with that identity card, and all the range of activities that you require to get through successfully with an ID card. And so if it is going to be said that people shouldn't get registered, I think that is rather silly again. But I want to tell you this. I am in charge of security, and I am in charge of, to a certain extent, intelligence. The intelligence out there is that the leader of the opposition publicly is telling people that he's not supporting the house-to-house registration, but all the information that we have, very, very reliable information, is that he's telling his supporters, get registered, get registered. And almost all in the strongholds, and we all know the strongholds because Guyanese society is like that, he has been carrying the message, y'all go and get registered. And the scrutineers and all of them have been registering. I was coming out from Dihoop the 2 nights ago, and the people registering you were all over those places, and they're saying that the people are registering. So I don't know, that kind of double speak on the part of the opposition and the leadership of the opposition is going to confuse their own supporters. So I told their supporters there, please go and get registered. You vote for the party of your choice. Then, of course, I made the arguments as to why they should vote for the coalition government, because so many things have been done in just 4 years and a couple of months. And they've been listening. I don't know what they will do. But these are strong forces of the PPP, I know. But, of course, you have to start cracking and fracking them, as it were. And that is what we will be doing in those areas. And so, indeed, if they then feel that our arguments are meritorious, their names being on the voters list, they can then vote for the APNUAFC. And so that is what we are doing all around.
If you've just joined us, we are on with Insight, and our guest this morning on the program is Minister Khemraj Ramjattan, Minister of Public Security. Minister, we can turn now to crime. What would you say is the status of crime in the country right now? Would you say it's on the decrease?
It is definitely on the decrease. And look, the trouble I am having is that people seem not to want to believe it, because, of course, it is on the press every day, and it is on the news every day, and the highlights and of very gory murders and robberies and all of that. But the statistics, and they are very reliable statistics, have shown that crime is on the decline. And because, of course, of all that has happened over the past 4 years, it is obviously going to go that way. We have taken out rogue cops. We are ensuring that their activities, that is of unprofessionalism in the police force, are going to be dealt with. Everybody that complained, that complaint must be investigated. And if it proves indeed that it is meritorious, well, fine. We departmentally charge, or sometimes criminally charge through the DPP and our police legal advisor, the policemen. About 40 policemen have been so charged and, you know, terminated since I've been in office. It is with this focused deterrence or activity of ensuring that our policemen feel scared about doing wicked things will help. That is a big thing that has helped. And so the professionalism is growing in the police force. But the statistics too are showing that as against year 2009 right up to 2018, it has been on a decline. People still feel that that is not so, but that has been happening in all countries. The more literature I read, and I remember reading a very important book, Enlightenment Now, by one of the very big professors, Steven Pinker. And he said that from 1995 to 2015, the crime, because of the Giuliani in New York, that is I'm talking about, went down. But when they did a survey, I think it was a Gallup survey or a Pew survey, everybody in New York felt that the crime had doubled when it went right down, and so on. And so that is what we're going to have in Guyana. We had crimes totaling serious crimes in 2012, 3,760. In 2011, 3,823. And then the highest in 2013, 4,204. Right? And then from 2016, 3,330, then 3,036, and in 2018, 2,681. So on a graph, it is going down. I would prefer it to go further down. The trouble is that indeed it has not. But that is because more resources we have to pour into the police force.
Yes.
We have to get more assets, we have to get more patrol vehicles, we have to get a number of other things, we have to get the training exercises more frequently, and we are doing a number on that. We also have to have quicker testing done, and that is why a major achievement of this administration is to get the DNA and the gun residue lab now in operation. For 23 years, it couldn't have been done under the opposition. Within the first 3.5, 4 years, we have managed now to get a DNA lab. So many problems when I came in, realizing that we had to solve the air conditioning unit. These things have to have very strong integrity characteristics about them. The internal arrangements have to be, you just don't make a laboratory and that is it. But the status of the samples and how the record keeping of them and the results and where the results are going to be put and all of that, so that if checks got to be made or a court order certain, all of that had to be put in place. And now we have reached the international standards. We have gotten the equipment from the IDB loan that we took, the Citizen Security Strengthening Program, and some Italian staff members are training our people there, confirming, because most of them have gotten the training, and but doing the testing and all of that to ensure that we are 100% accurate every time when we do that. There are lots of other things that we have gone through, and they include more comfortable environment for our policemen. And we have done rehabilitation of police stations, the brand new ones and almost brand new ones because of the major rehabilitation that has occurred at these individual stations: Cane Grove, Lagrange, Maibikuri, Port Kaichuma, Mabaruma, Suddy, Kwakwani, Isano, Aishalton, Anai, Aurora, and Mackenzie. Aurora and Mackenzie are brand new police stations, and the rest have been rehabilitated to almost brand new status too. And they have been rehabilitated to have what is called domestic violence rooms, where the cases there are going to be dealt with, a witness protection room, an automated case management room. Now that's an important aspect of the development of the police force. Recently, we did a Carry Secure project in which we are going to take Albertown Police Station and Fort Wellington Police Station as a pilot project. Every single report made at a police station will be digitized and computerized, and then it will go to central headquarters. But it will also go to all the other police stations. The project is now only within those 2 police stations, but we are going to have it in all the police stations once this pilot project show us what is the difficulties at the police stations and so on, so we can correct it, and then we're going to install in almost all Guyana's police stations. So if you have a suspect that get away from a robbery that occurred in Georgetown and is gone, immediately, actual real time, the information will go that this suspect, whether it is a person by the name of John or Dick or whatever, with a photograph, will be sent to Skeleton Police Station and Lethem Police Station and all the police stations. We are going there. That's the development. I have come to realize that it is technology plus professional personnel that is going to take us places. And that is what we're doing now. And we're getting the support from Carry Secure, from the OAS and USAID. In relation to another pilot project that we have done for Georgetown area, Georgetown has 53% of the crimes being committed in the country. It's committed in Georgetown. Because of the commercial area, people with lots more monies and this and that, and Guyanese like to walk with cash. They don't want to walk with plastic or checks, and that is why. So the opportunity is there, and some of them are very careless and so on, and they get robbed, and that is why 53% over the years occur in Georgetown. So we have set up now a smart city project through the very big company out of China called Huawei. They produce some fantastic cameras, almost 360 around the lantern posts. When you put the cameras there, you can see almost right around the place, even up in the air and all. That is how sophisticated they are. So, and we now have to get this command center. We are using a temporary place whilst the command center is being built. And that temporary place, we had a kind of a launch the other day. I think some other members of NCN were there to see what it is. You see so high resolution quality, all the cars, and even you can figure out if a car jump a red light and all of that. We can go and see the car number by it focusing on to that plate, the license plate.
And even the photograph of the driver.
And even the photograph of the driver. And there is facial recognition. I notice now Starbrook News saying that I may be breaching privacy laws. Well, I would like to tell Starbrook News and all those other doomsayers that this is the problem. We have to make a balance between security and privacy. If you want to catch criminals, you'll have to have some bit of privacy being encroached upon. And that is what it is. When the Americans do it, oh, they're great Americans to do it. When the Chinese do it, they're great. When we do it in Guyana, we'll get editorials saying, oh, but they got two fellas, sure, with low, and somebody else saying that this might be breaching privacy laws. Well, I would want them to carry it to court, and then we probably will end up in the CCJ to find out if putting up a smart city is violating any. You know, if you do, you get trouble. If you don't do, you get trouble. So I don't know what it is, but I will proceed knowing very well that I have to do this, and that will be done. It is coming from a loan from the Chinese that has been sponsored by the Ministry of Telecommunications, and I have to thank my sister, Kathy Hughes. I had asked the IDB for some monies in relation to this, and the IDB had indicated that the monies for the citizen security, rehabilitating police stations, at-risk young people and so on, which I'll talk about later, all of that has caused the money to kind of dry up there. So we went to the Chinese, and the Chinese have delivered. And they have a company that is pretty high quality that is helping Guyana in relation to having the best set of cameras to do these things. Now, that certainly will deter criminality within the streets of Georgetown, because that's the hot spot, Georgetown, 53% for the whole country. And then, as we get more monies, or if from our oil and natural gas resources, we will then implement it at Skeldon, we'll implement it at Linden, Letem, and so on. And in the entire country within a year period. And that will be great. Technology. In London today, you walk the streets of London, some camera on you. Okay? And your movements, even if you dash across into another street, the camera has a certain feature about it. You run in, the camera follows you literally. That is what we're bringing to Guyana. And that is an important aspect of it. So apart from rehabilitating police stations and then doing the smart city and the DNA lab and so on, we have also activated the 911 system. But it still has some problems. We are not going to have this thing working magic the next day that you implement it. There are going to be problems. Problems with the personnel behind the telephones, and I've heard complaints about that. I urge the commissioner all the time, please get these people. I hope they're not sleeping there. And of course, they're not sleeping because you have supervisors and so on. But sometimes there is not a response because they do answer the phone, but they tell you, and that is because we don't have enough patrol vehicles. And we have to now buy lots more of these vehicles that will immediately dash. Like when you see in the American movies, a crime occur and about 14, 15 of these cars, siren and all that and so on. The other thing has to do with what we are talking about is the social aspects of crime. And that is what a big development yesterday out of CARICOM. CARICOM, and we, the Ministers of Public Security and Home Affairs in and around CARICOM, and the heads of state, have agreed that we have to be more evidence-based in our approach to solving crime. Crime is solvable, but we live in an area that has the highest crime rates in the world. That is Latin America and the Caribbean. Our crime rates, especially our murder rates, are higher than even war-torn Syria. It's unbelievable, but it is something that is the truth. 56,000 murders occur in Brazil every year. That is far more than the people dying in the Syrian war. Honduras, it went up to 68,000 one year. Okay? In Jamaica, the homicide rate is about 55 to 100,000 people. 55. They had about 2,400 last year and things like that. Trinidad, it is extremely high. Again, reaching about 38 or 39 murders per 100,000 people. In Guyana, it is 15, one of the lowest. Barbados has the lowest, and it is 11. And we are not proud of that fact. I am not proud of the high rates in Jamaica or Trinidad either. So we have merged a policy arrangement whereby we feel that we have to go to the schools. What is causing the root causes and all of that? So Jamaica, Trinidad, Suriname, Antigua and Barbuda, Guyana, I think are the 5 countries in this pilot project, in which we have now done surveys in schools, primary schools and secondary schools, that will tell us from these surveys what is going wrong, because we believe it's at the school system and the communities around these schools that will give us what might be the best solutions once we analyze the statistics that we gather from that properly. And that is what we are doing. And moreover, when we analyze it properly, we want local inputs to design an action plan. And that is what we were there yesterday at the Duke Hotel, the Roraima place there, Duke Lodge, to deal with. And I thought I saw some reports today indicating what I was talking about. We feel that because all of this is happening, the crime rates are going to go further down. Because when you take away the incentive from at-risk young people, at-risk youths and students, you take away the incentive for them to misbehave or go and indulge in stealing or vandalizing and so on, and put them into clubs and put them into activities to play the steel band or to do art or some such other thing, it is going to make a better citizen, plus it's going to decline the crime, decrease the crime rate. And we have identified 20 communities where the hotspots. We have, and that is what we're going to do. In relation to the schools, schools from all across the country were surveyed, and we have a fair idea of what we have to now do. But we want the counselors, the education officers, the teachers within these schools now to have a handle as to what is the best action plan. Champions for Change clubs. Champions for Change clubs to be formed, and CARICOM will find the money under the European Union to help create these clubs, buy the gears for them, put up the buildings or the pavilions, keep the ground clear of all the big bushes and all of that. People will go to the grounds. The girl could play whatever games, rounders or lawn tennis, or get involved in professional, at least from that starting, so that if they want, they could be professionals later on. And that is what is going to take it away. Crime decrease is not only a law enforcement thing, where you put more police and patrols and all that. It also has a socio-economic input that you have to put and so on. But over and above that, these hot spots where these crimes occur, we have to get them properly lit up. We got to put video cameras there that could deter in these hot spots crimes happening. when they're properly lit up, as the literature is saying, it deters those with an urge to go commit larceny. And then when it deters, it's not that they can go somewhere else to commit the large. The temptation is gone. And so that will help. And so we are doing a massive set of work, trying to enhance the statistics, trying to do evidence-based projects, and indeed it is going down. But I just want to also say that we will be doing more and more in relation to this. I want to promote more gender equality in our police force. I have seen the statistics. Most of the people in Guyana criticize the male policeman. I hardly get any criticism against female police women. Female police.
Maybe it's because there's nothing to criticize.
well, whatever it is, but women are far more charming, they're far more courteous than the male. They got some rough women too, but you could appreciate that they certainly have an approach that is less aggressive and abrasive than the men. So I want to promote that gender equality, and also to get more females in the officer corps and so on. That will help too. Information and technology and communication system to better tell at real time, far-flung stations, who are the suspects, as I mentioned, and so on. We have to identify and train these at-risk youths at the vulnerable communities. And we also want to expand our policing community groupings all across. We want it especially in areas next to the border with Venezuela and Brazil, because sometimes you do not have policemen to post in those stations, but the communities there can help in that regard, community policing. And so we're going to expand that, especially in those frontier areas. And the big one is, of course, academic training and professionalizing of our policemen through this academic training. I heard now, as of this year, the police got about 40 to 50 policemen now with bachelor's degrees and master's degrees. That is so important. You see, when you have that capacity, academic capacity, they can start determining their own strategic plans and so on, their strategies and plans, so that they could implement themselves. It is best when the police force come up with their ideas, because then they buy into it. Yeah. When a stranger come, let's say, and they start talking things to you and so on, sometimes you don't want to buy it in because this is an instruction from afar. And police forces generally all across the world are very conservative institutions. So if they now have their own academics who can come up with almost the identical thing the experts overseas will say, they're going to say, well, that's our idea, and they buy into it. And that is an important concept that I have, to let the police buy in through their own academic researches and so on. And that is what's going to happen to this country and take us places. So there is a vision out there for what should be done. And, of course, it's now the execution of that vision. The execution depends on resources. The execution depends on leadership of the police force. And the execution depends on a number of things whereby the conservatism will have to go. There's something called operational dynamics. When a policeman see that a new system coming in place, all of a sudden they back off. Where's this? This come to take over me space here, you know, all of that. So we have to tell the policeman, no, it is to enhance your space. It's to make you do better, and so on. But some of them feel that, you know, it is not really so, and so on. So we have to have some culture change, institutional transformation, and that is what is going to happen. And you're certainly going to see it coming down, the rates of crime.
Minister, to use your words, there is a vision for change, and you have left us with quite a lot of food for thought. We want to thank you for being part of our series on Insight, and we have had with us as our guests this morning the Honorable Minister of Public Security, Khemraj Ramjattan. Minister, thank you for being here.
Thanks for being here.